how do you set goals towards changing your career if you are unsure of what you want? Okay, listen up, friend. You know what? There was a season in my life where I just began to get dissatisfied with what I was doing. I don't know what happens to us, but sometimes we allow a little bit of ungratefulness to kind of wiggle its little way into our shoe. Kind of like a little pebble that just wiggles its way in between your pinky toe and that other, what is that other toe called? I have no idea. But anyway, so a little piece of sand that wiggles in there, and then you put your shoe on, and then what do you got? You keep wiggling your shoe, and you just keep trying to get rid of that little thing, and then eventually you take your shoe off, you dig in between your disgusting toes, and you try to get rid of whatever is in there, and sometimes a piece of lint, and sometimes it's a piece of sand. The bottom line is that things just starts aggravating us a little by little each moment that you continue to let that be in there. And that's kind of how I see gratitude, or let's say the lack of it. Complaining. Open up your heart towards dissatisfaction. I've done this in my marriage. I've done this in my work life. And I remember many years ago that here I had built a huge career, making great money, and yet I found myself totally dissatisfied. I found myself just not motivated anymore to do it. Now, look, you might be that person that's thinking, but, oh, Dani, if I had a really exciting career and if I was making a lot of money, then I would never be dissatisfied. Friend, if you have a habit of being dissatisfied, guess what? This is a character issue. And I promise you, if you were making $100,000 a month or $100,000 a year, if you're complaining about $1,000 a month, you would be complaining about every number, every extra zero that gets added to it. This kind of like this fantasy that we chase that, oh, when I start making more money and then when I have a more important career, then it's going to be like so much easier. I'll be so much happier. Let's just look at this right now, okay? Let's just break it down and make it real plain right now. Do you remember when you first started in the workforce? What were you making? I was making $1 an hour as a babysitter. I was stoked out of my mind. I remember going, oh my gosh, this is so much money. It was like peanuts, right? But right away you're like, okay, so I'm working 10 hours and I make $10. I got $10. And I'd be thinking about all the different places that I could spend it, right? So then you want to add more hours because you're looking at, dang, every hour I'm making $1. Okay, so that was fine and dandy. And then I remember getting a job making $3.35 an hour. I was working at a video store. And I remember thinking, I'm making triple the amount of money. Like, this was amazing, right? So I was 13 when I started babysitting. I was 15 when I started working at a video store. And then I got up to $3.50 an hour. And I remember calculating and recalculating and calculating and recalculating and deciding where the money was going to go and how I was going to spend it. And then what happened? The more money I made, I got bit by something. I did. I kept getting bit by something. And I found myself wanting more and never being satisfied. So here I then started doing some modeling. I made $25 an hour as a model. This is a long, long time ago. I was actually pregnant and didn't know it. And so now I was like, oh my gosh, $25 in an hour. Okay, and then I started a business. And I made $50,000 in 6 months. And then another business that I started made $250,000. And then that next year I made my first $1 million. And I remember being totally dissatisfied. I remember getting totally bored. And I really wonder if it had something to do with the fact that the more money I made, I had this kind of fantasy that I was chasing, that I would feel a certain way once I made that kind of cash. That once my value somehow was like better, then I would feel better about myself. And I think I remember that right after I became a millionaire, I remember being depressed. No joke. I was totally depressed. You're like, I know you want to slap me right now, but I'm telling you the truth. In fact, there's probably many millionaires that once they made that money, they were a little disillusioned and they were even like discouraged. I know I was, and I know several others that were as well. And why? Because the urge to make more and the dissatisfaction was more the more I made. That somehow I felt like, wait a second, I thought I was going to feel different when I got here. I thought I was going to be different when I got here, but I wasn't any different. I still was the complaining, dissatisfied person. I was actually happier when I made less money than I was when I made more money. I know that sounds crazy. I'm just telling you the truth. And so dissatisfaction is a habit. And if you are that person that is never satisfied and you are unsure about what to do with your career, meaning like, how do I set a goal when I'm unsure about what I want to do with my career? Why are you unsure? Is it that you're unsure because you're dissatisfied? You have found reasons to not be satisfied with the work in which you are doing? Well, something changed for me all of a sudden one day. And it's when I came across a passage of wisdom that said, in everything you do, do it as unto him. And yes, do it. Find satisfaction in what you do. Not go find work that satisfies you, but find satisfaction in what you do. Because that means that all work comes with satisfaction. And the dissatisfaction is greed motivated. More, never being satisfied is a habitual mind pattern. It's a habitual thought process. And as a man thinks, so is he. So if you are forever dissatisfied, you will always be dissatisfied. And so some different mind mapping needs to happen. And you need to kind of take that dissatisfaction and now look for satisfaction in what you're doing. Because when you're dissatisfied, you are confused. Clear up the confusion and find satisfaction in what you do. And you're going to find that you know exactly where you're supposed to be.